think we're going to go ahead and get started. Well, welcome everyone. My name is Kevin Klein, Channel Account Manager here at ShipStation. And I would like to welcome our audience to how to master omni-channel logistics, ship from store using ShipStation and modern retail. So I'm just going to briefly give an agenda of what we're gonna talk about today, and introduce our panelist, Todd. But just a quick sort of recap of where we're headed today. We're just going to touch briefly on sort of the changing nature of retail, and how that affects shipping and some of the shipping problems that come up in that space. And then bringing bringing in omnichannel logistics. So the idea of managing that problem in an efficient way that works across all various channels, be them on like a bricks physical location and obviously an e-commerce channel. And then obviously our panelist Todd will give sort of an overview of modern retail and ShipStation integration and what that looks like, give a brief demo, and then we'll do some questions and answers. So, and with that, I would like to introduce Todd from Modern Retail. Welcome, Todd.
Hey, thanks, Kevin. And thank you, everybody, for joining. I know everybody's busy, and so we'll try to hopefully have some good material here for you guys today. I'm a co-founder of Modern Retail 21 years ago, actually. And if that's not scary enough, I actually been doing this for about 25 years. I jokingly tell people that Al Gore and I started the internet. I've actually done other presentations, and people have come up to me after the presentation and go, geez, how old are you? I'm like, well, nice. I'm 52, but I've been doing this for about 25 years. And a couple of times people have said, oh, geez, I wasn't even born then. So it's kind of funny. It makes you really feel old. But we're going to show you what we have for you, really leveraging your stores and warehouses and how to ship goods for those. And so we're going to get right on into that. So if you could, next slide, please. I pretty much talk to retailers, manufacturers, distributors really every day, right? And all I hear from people is I buy things and I sell things, and it seems like anything in between there that gets in the way is just noise, and it's in the way of me making money. And so, and people just need a more efficient way to fulfill their products. And a lot of times, what we're seeing here is this growth of the data. We have multiple channels where people are on Amazon and eBay, Target. They have their websites, maybe multiple websites. They have in-stores, they have warehouses, just lots and lots of data. And a lot of this inventory is just scattered all over the place. They'll have some inventory in their stores, some of their brick and mortar stores. Sometimes it's in the warehouse. They are struggling to, how do I ship things out of my warehouse, and then if the warehouse doesn't have it, how do I ship it out of the store? And it's very, very difficult for retailers to do that, or just people that just have multiple warehouse. How do I efficiently ship from multiple warehouses? I have a couple on the East Coast, a couple on the West Coast, maybe a couple in central United States. How do we utilize that, and how do we ship out those goods? And it's really, really complicated. And it's even more complicated because, again, people just don't have time for this, and they don't have the time, or the complexity is just too darn complex for folks. Next slide. And Kevin, do you want this, or do you want me to take this one?
Yeah, I think we can speak to it together, Todd. I think that's true. And from my background working with manufacturers, worked with a lot of retailers who sort of maybe had a manageable physical presence. Maybe they had two or three stores, and then they wanted to expand online. And obviously that the more channels that you add, the more complexity you get. And I think that really boils down to, like, to your point, noise. And I think what they really want to do is have a positive experience for their customer across any channel that they might be interacting with, right? So I think winning with omnichannel really sort of starts with defining a cohesive consumer experience. You want continuity. You don't want someone to be interacting with your brand on maybe your website in a negative way, and then they're like, they go to the store and it's a really positive experience. You want it to be, continuous across all those various channels. And I think that starts with, quite frankly, just treating inventory as one entity, right? As these channels are places where inventory exists, be it in my web store, be it in my physical location, and breaking down barriers between those so that if someone has a product in one store that maybe is in a different state or a different location, physical location, they still can buy that online or have that shipped to them directly. And you kind of see this trend in big box retailers, right? Like every time I go into a big box store now, if they don't have it in store, I can order it online, and the experience is pretty cohesive. So I'm seeing that. And from the shipping standpoint, in terms of ShipStation, we preach that all the time. Because what people do with ShipStation is manage all of their shipping within one interface, right? They treat all of their channels, be they most e-commerce selling channels or even even ERP now. They manage all of that within sort of one interface that allows them to do pick, pack, and ship. And then I think that's really where you come in, Todd, is that really you help us at ShipStation manage the inventory piece of it.
And it's funny because we always promote ShipStation, as you know, Kevin. We're always promoting you guys. We love you guys. And it's really interesting because when that piece that you said near the end that said ShipStation will suck in all those orders, right, from all those different channels. It will suck in all the orders from my website, Amazon, eBay. And the poor people that do pick, pack, and ship, they don't need to log into their website. They don't log into Amazon. They don't have to log into eBay. They just log into ShipStation. You can do everything from one point, one place, right? And it's interesting because almost every sales call I'm in, I always mention this to people, and it's amazing that people that just don't even know how to take advantage of that, right? They don't know that ShipStation could do that and suck all those orders in from all those different channels. And it just makes it easier because the people that are doing pick, pack, and ship, they just go to one spot. They don't have to go to multiple locations to do shipping. And it's really, that feeds into why we're partners with you and doing the ship from store, because again, it's one place to do everything, right?
Exactly. Yeah, it makes sense.
All right. So, every time I'm talking to retailers, they want, and some of them have warehouses, some of them don't. Again, manufacturer distributors, they may have a warehouse, but if I just talk to retailers, a lot of them don't have a warehouse, and they think their stores are warehouses. It's funny, right? That's where everybody has gone to, where the back stock, the items on the shelf, in each of the locations, that's the inventory, that's their warehouse. And I think that's a really good way of looking at it, because you want to treat those stores as warehouses. The problem becomes is how do you effectively do that? How do you effectively, take that inventory that's sitting on the shelf or in the back stock from all these different locations, and how do you expose that online? And then how do you route the orders to those locations? And how do you fulfill the orders from those different locations? I think that's really what I think people want to do, because they want every opportunity to sell something, right? They want to be able to sell the stuff in their stores. And I think you want to treat that, because sometimes I hear from retailers is, this is too complicated. I can't do that. I'm only going to ship out of my biggest store number one, and they forget about their 5 other locations just because they think the complexity is just too darn complex and they can't do it. But that's leaving a bunch of inventory on the shelf that is not exposed online, not exposed to all these channels. And I generally don't recommend doing that, right? I don't recommend just taking inventory from one location and only one location, or a warehouse, or just one warehouse, and that's it. Let's expose all the inventory across the entire organization, and let's make it all available online. And then let's figure out how, and that's what our solution does, let's figure out how to route those orders to correct location fulfillment. So that's always been my recommendation, especially now is it's very, very competitive. That's the best way to do it, is really treat your stores as warehouses and figure out a way, our solution or someone else's solution, to really route those orders to those locations for fulfillment. All right. So that's what we do. And so modern retail, we really do. We leverage ShipStation, as you heard. We love ShipStation. Everybody recommends ShipStation too. They love it. It's so easy to use. And what really happens here is we're going to route those orders to those locations for fulfillment. And we do that based on rules that we'll work with you on and set this up. And so what our technology does is actually communicates with the POS or ERP system, gets the inventory from that, which of course is being sent to the website, what's Shopify, BigCommerce, WooCommerce, Magento. And then we're going to take those orders and route those orders to the correct locations. And this all happens automatically, as you're going to see in the demo. There's nothing that you need to do to actually route these orders to the individual locations. And what's really nice is when someone logs into location number 2, they're going to see the orders that they need to fulfill for the day, which is great. And they're not intermixed with location number 1 or location number 3. And it's a really nice solution to sort of automate everything. Okay, next. So again, I've said this a couple of times. Kevin, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, I think you're right on right on the money with the fact that the customers now are using their physical locations as warehouses. I mean, I think one of the underlining factors there is that warehouse space is quite frankly expensive, and they already have a lot of this inventory that they want to have exposed to more eyeballs. I mean, or more people that potentially buy their products. And I've seen it done sort of 2 ways, where you're right, like they have online inventory, but then some inventory in the stores, and they're trying to manage it separately. And I think that by doing that, they're just missing opportunities. The other thing I would add is that if you, by exposing all of your inventory from physical locations, especially if they're spread out across various regions, is there's a seasonality to it, right? So the example I like to bring up is the customer I know is using Ship from Store. Is they may have a product that's hot in the Midwest, and they have a location in Florida that has it, right? And no one in Florida or the Southeast really wants that product. That just opens it up to more potential buyers, especially if it's something seasonal or a product that is relevant in one market and not another.
And that's a good point too. And then you start to go omni-channel, right? You're selling on Amazon, eBay, Target, all these other, Walmart, right? And
right.
It just compounds that problem that you just talked about, right? Because that seasonality, then it really get a run on something, and you might not have it on the East Coast, but you might have it on the West Coast, like you said, right? You can ship it out of a different warehouse, right? And that's a good point,
And it's another potential opportunity to not miss a sale, right? So you've got that inventory. I'm thinking, maybe like a color or a particular size in a shirt that you've got in stock in a location that's not where that physical consumer is at that given moment. The ability to quickly and easily say, well, we've got this, we've got the size you need. You can purchase it right here, and we'll ship it right to your house. And that's powerful, I think, especially when you're right. There's a lot of competition out there, and if you don't have the product they want right now, then the next thing they're going to do is just go online and buy it at that point. I think that's what a lot of physical retailers are quite concerned about. So this really kind of helps solve that problem.
And so this slide, we talked about most of it, but I think the old way of like transferring goods between stores, and that's what will happen. It's crazy. I've seen people do emails to try to, hey, I don't have this inventory. Do you have it in store number 5? Can you ship it out? I've phone calls and all kinds of crazy stuff. And it's very, very time consuming, right? Trying to figure out where the inventory lives and who has the inventory. This old way of transferring is got to go, right? And I think you still see that a lot today. And what our solution will do is automatically send those orders to the location that has the inventory, sort of based on rules that you guys create. And those rules can be, hey, pick the closest store to the consumer who bought it. So if the consumer's in Omaha, Nebraska, and you have a location in Chicago, maybe that's the closest location to ship them the goods. And of course, that's going to reduce your shipping costs, right? And so it might be the closest store. Or you're going to hear about an example with TC Marketing. Right now, they have 3 massive warehouses, but they're all on the East Coast. It might just be something store with the most inventory, or the warehouse that has that can fulfill the entire order, right? So if someone buys 4 or 5 items, that can fulfill the entire order, because that's generally going to be cheaper for you as well. So all these rules, they could be configured, and it's really based on your business what makes sense. Some people have actually asked us to, no, I want to ship it from the location that has the least inventory. Good, Kevin. You want to say something?
No, I don't leave it. That was me.
All right. So TC Marketing, I love these guys. TC Marketing is just one of those clients that you just fall in love with, frankly. They're a great client. They have, again, 3 big warehouses. on the East Coast are actually opening up another warehouse on the West Coast. When they do that, they're going to use our geolocation feature when that warehouse opens on the West Coast. They have like 8 websites, and I'll show you when I do my demo some really good brands, strollers and apparel. They're really high-end sort of goods and apparel and kids
The baby goods. Yeah, I remember
baby
like
goods.
Wombi and stuff. There's some good brands in there.
Really high end, and they're just great people. And they got all these channels: Target, Walmart. They have all these places where orders are coming in, Amazon, and they all have to be routed. And how do you route those orders, and how do you get them to those warehouses efficiently? It is a really good case study because we've done that for them, right? And you can imagine with 8 websites, the kind of volume that they have every day, it's really large. And can talk to these guys quite a bit too, right?
Yeah, I think when they approached, or when I would say we started this project with them, they were looking for a solution that from a shipping solution standpoint, that could really scale with their business. I think their concern was, to your point, they have a lot of websites, they have locations, they have different warehouses, different brands, and they really wanted to, a platform that was web-based, where they could simply roll this out quickly and easily to those multiple locations, but then take advantage of some of the more automated features within ShipStation that could help them get to that label as quick as possible, and route those orders effectively to the various warehouses. So to your point in the beginning, where you were talking about the warehouse employee or person making those decisions, it kind of really takes a lot of the human error out of it. It's automatically selected. Things are automatically pre-populated on the behalf using ShipStation's automation rules, and then moving to a batch scenario where they can get those thousands and thousands of orders out in a single click, and have their customers notified, and have their ERP and their POS notified. I mean, I think that's really what they were after, and I think together we were able to obviously offer that solution to them.
Yeah, and some of the automation rules are really powerful. I know a lot of our clients use that ShipStation, and that's a great feature as well, right? It just you could do things in batch, and not have to do onesie twosies, right? And it just makes things a lot faster.
Yep, precisely. Yeah, and they were kind enough to say some nice things about us. I think they're sort of a great example of a complex problem that we can solve together, as someone's sort of morphing their business or moving into commerce, but also opening up physical, and what does that look like? Because quite frankly, like you said at the beginning, the landscape is really evolving, and a lot of those big box retailers are evolving as well, and I think that this is a big part of it.
Okay, demo time.
Yeah.
All right.
Cool.
So let me go here. I'm sorry. What are you guys seeing right now?
Your desktop.
Hold on. Sorry about that. All right, let me just do this. This will be easier. Can you see that?
Yeah.
Hold on.
One of their brands, one of TC Marketing's brands.
That is. Hold on, let me move this. I was having a little issue. All right. So this is one of TC Marketing's brands, just to show you. They, again, very great client, high-end brands, men's, women clothing, kids accessories, apparel, everything. So it's a really great brand. Okay. So a demo. So let me do this. I'm going to log in here. And okay. All right, so what you're looking at here is really what we call our admin panel. And this is a tool that does a lot of things. In this particular case, will integrate with the POS system, ERP system. It does, in-store pickup, local delivery. But what we're really focused on here is really the shipping aspect, ship from store. And it really starts on our side, really setting up those locations. And so, again, this could be an example of someone has a warehouse in Chicago, Los Angeles, New York. And if you actually go to ShipStation, they're the exact same, if you will, the exact same location set up in ShipStation, right? So same locations in ShipStation, Chicago, Los Angeles, New York. that really coincide with the same locations here. And based on those locations, you can set up rules. Okay, shipping rules is really how do you want orders to be sent to those different locations. Again, in the case of TC Marketing right now, they have 3 warehouses on the East Coast, and it might be just a very simple rule, like ship from location number 1 first, and if it doesn't have it, ship from location number 2, then the location number 3. And again, you could do it on all orders or partial orders as well. So it's really pretty powerful how you want to set this up. Now, when they open up a warehouse in the West Coast, it's going to use geolocation, okay? And so with combination with locations and your rules, then of course you get connected to ShipStation. And what's going to happen here is, let me simulate an order here. So let me have a new order come in. And so as orders hit, order's gonna, let me refresh this. Okay, and so what happens is orders come in here and they're really automatically, what they're automatically gonna do is they're gonna automatically go to ShipStation. There's nothing you need to do based on those rules. Now, if for some reason you didn't have the inventory, there was an error with the inventory, slippage, this would notify you, and it goes in the log, and this actually turns out to be an error that it can't, and it will notify you when if it fails all those rules going back here. So if all the rules fails, you do have to do it manually, okay? But it has to go all the way through the stack, if you will, until it fails completely, and it's going to tell you it failed, and there's going to be an error that you have to do it manually. But as you can see right here, this is now, these are pending, and if I log into ShipStation, okay, they're not going to be there. And what I'm going to do, so this isn't there, let me see, who's those last one? Alex. So I'm going to send these over to ShipStation right now. And with a little luck, I hit refresh. Yep, right there. Okay, so if I come here, this order just landed in ShipStation, and this would have happened automatically. Again, it's going to happen automatically based on those rules that you set up that will help you configure. And as you can see here, it automatically, in this case, selected Chicago. Because if you looked at the previous screen, Chicago was the very first location where the rules are set, and it's going to automatically be assigned to that Chicago location. Now, just to be clear, this is a warehouse within ShipStation. And so when the people within the Chicago warehouse logs into ShipStation, they're just seeing their orders that they need to fulfill. They're not getting intermingled with the ones in New York and LA. It's just Chicago. So they can come in here, they can get this order, they can come in here, and of course, specify the shipping, the carrier, all that good stuff. Come up here, package. This is kind of stuff that you guys, I'm sure, are all very familiar with. You can create a label, okay? And this is just gonna, good old ShipStation, right? You can come in here, print a label, create a label, and boom, you got a label that you can print off, okay? And then this label, right? And when I just pretend I print it off and send it off, and what's gonna happen here is if I go back here, that was said pending, right? Now if I hit refresh, that says ship now. And so what this is gonna do, it's got the shipment, it's gonna update whatever channel it needed to update. Let's just say you had a BigCommerce website, a Magento website, it's gonna update that. And then in our case, for most of our clients, it's also gonna send that order back down to the POS or ERP system. So of course, the tracking number goes to the customer, they have the tracking number, it updates all those channels wherever the order came from. And then in our case, for most of our clients, then we're also then updating the POS or ERP system with the order information as well. And so that's sort of our ship from store feature. And it's really this routing the orders based on rules that you guys create to the various locations. And those locations could be brick and mortar stores, they could be warehouses, and it really is dependent on sort of where does that inventory live, and based on those rules that you create, how do I route that order automatically? And they're just gonna show up in ShipStation automatically with no human intervention. The only time that you really need to intervene with that in some way is if it just fails, right? And then you're gonna get notified. If you just don't have the inventory because of slippage or whatever, If you just don't have it, well, you're going to get notified of that, and then you're going to have to figure out how to ship that or cancel the order or whatever it might be. But 90 times out of 100, it's just going to route those orders, and it's going to do its thing.
Yeah, and I think once once the order shipped within ShipStation as well, I mean, it's going to obviously it updates modern retail, but we can also notify the customer and a lot of the things that I think people on this webinar are most likely familiar with. All of that functionality still exists, and in essence, modern retail becomes a selling channel within ShipStation. So if you're familiar with the way that we interact with other selling channels, it's going to be very similar in that regard. And thanks, Todd. That looks fantastic. We do have a couple of questions that have come in. I'm going to turn it to some questions if that's all right.
Yeah, sounds good.
Yeah, the first one. Do you work with all? I think this is for you, Todd. Do you work with all POS systems? I think that's the first question here.
Yeah, so we work 14 different systems today. We're always looking to add additional systems. So if you go to our website and you don't see yours listed, please let us know. We'd love to work with you and your provider, whoever that POS or ERP vendor is, and do the integration. We're always looking to add more. So we have 14 today, but would love to have 14 more. So yes.
Okay, got it. Let me see. So I guess here's another question about a POS or ERP. It says, must you integrate with the POS or ERP? Is this like only work with the POS or ERP?
Well, it depends, right? So we actually work with another ShipStation client that their inventory was sort of unique. They were selling perishable items. I think it was like meat, right? And so the meat had to go to one warehouse, but if you also bought a canned jam from the same company, that goes out a completely different warehouse. And so nothing needs to be done there. We could set up a rule that says, oh, this is this type of product, and that needs to go to this warehouse, and this other type of product is not perishable. So guess what? We're going to send it to this location over here instead. And so the answer is no, but certainly if you have multiple stores and you're trying to route inventory to those locations based on the store's inventory, yes, we'd have to, although Shopify, BigCommerce, Magento, everybody's coming out with this inventory by location. Basically, the platforms will be storing inventory across the organization as well, and when that happens, Shopify actually came out with it last year, BigCommerce is working on it, then no, we can just grab that inventory from the platform itself. So to answer your question, and hopefully I did, maybe is I guess the answer.
That's a good answer. I mean, yeah, it just depends on. I guess it depends on the individual customer, right?
Yep.
Their requirements. Yeah. So I got another one that says, can I route orders based on the location of my warehouses and where the order needs to be shipped? I guess you kind of spoke to that functionality already, Todd, the geolocation functionality within modern retail.
Yeah, that's right. So if you have warehouse on the East Coast, West Coast, and one in Chicago, you could set up a rule that says geolocation, which is the closest location to the consumer. Again, so if they're in Omaha, Nebraska, the closest location might be Chicago, right? And if Chicago has the inventory, let's ship it out of the Chicago warehouse, and that probably makes most sense. And so they would use the geolocation rule in that case.
Which it makes a lot of sense, because I mean, if you're not going to ship, like an order from the furthest warehouse, right? You're going to end up paying on shipping. I mean, I guess that would explain why, some players in e-commerce, major players, are setting up distribution centers all over the country, right? So that they can have inventory close by and meet sort of, consumer expectations around how fast they get a product.
That's right.
Okay, so this one, does your solution work with every ShipStation plan? I can speak to that one. Yeah, it does. I think the only thing that ShipStation really provisions its plans on is a level of support and a number of shipments per month. So this works with every plan, but to some of the examples Todd gave about a particular warehouse logging in and seeing only their orders, you would need to pick a plan that gave you, the appropriate number of users to manage that. If you had 10, for example, our enterprise plan comes with 10 provisioned users. So if you had 10 warehouses, you wanted 10 separate logins, then you would need to pick the appropriate plan. Yeah, it says your admin panel looks nice. Will I have my complete order and shipping in there, as well as within my website?
Well, whoever said that, thanks. I appreciate that. We like our admin panel, but the answer is yes. You'll have really all the shipment information, of course, in ShipStation within our admin panel, and then yes, we'll update your website as well, right? So we're all that information, and it's interesting because I think using the example before, where you have a warehouse employee, their entire world is ShipStation, right? And so
Right.
to them, they don't want access to anything. They don't want access to Amazon. They don't want access to your Shopify, BigCommerce, WooCommerce, Magento website. They don't want access to anything. And their world is ShipStation. You're going to find that information all within ShipStation, right? You can just, that employee can go into ShipStation and find everything. But it's interesting because we have some people that are marketing people. We have some people that are on the website, and they might go and log into Magento or BigCommerce, WooCommerce, Magento, Shopify, and that might be their sort of thing that they look at. So it really depends what you're comfortable with. Again, when there is an error and we just can't solve an order that just can't be routed, we're going to let you know, but you do have to go to the admin panel to sort of resolve that and get that shipped. And so, sometimes that might mean, and you can do this also in ShipStation. If you remember that drop down when I said Chicago, you can go right within the ShipStation interface and send it from Chicago to New York. You can do that, and that's not a problem. That does work with our tool, but very often it's an inventory problem. People don't know where the inventory lives because the warehouse guy is just worried about their warehouse, and they don't know about the other warehouses because that's their job. And so that might take someone else to resolve, just to move the inventory from warehouse number 1 to warehouse number 5 or something like that.
Got it. Makes sense. All right, final question here. It's kind of for both of us. I guess it says at setup, do I need a modern retail account, a ShipStation account, or will ShipStation do it for me? I mean, can you speak a little bit to implementation, Todd? Time on this. Let's say we have a couple of customers here on this webinar that say, let's say, I want this. What can they expect in terms of time to completion?
It does depend on the POS or ERP system, but let's just say it's one of the 14 that we have now. Okay, so it's one of the systems we have now, and you sort of want the full shebang, right? The full on integration, routing the orders, all that kind of stuff. You're probably talking a couple of weeks, right? And certainly with some bigger ERP systems, it might be longer than that. It might be 4 weeks, depending on the implementation. But something that's pretty standard for us would just be a couple of weeks, and that's all it takes. Now, what we're going to do is, we work with Kevin and his team all the time, and so we'll, get the account set up. If you remember during the demo, we have to configure those locations. That's something that we're going to do for you as part of the setup. So yes, you do need an account with us. Yes, you do need an account with ShipStation, but that onboarding and actually getting things configured, we're going to do that all for you. We're going to walk you through all that. And so we're sort of this turnkey approach, right? You're going to come to us, a project manager is going to take care of you, an engineer is going to do the install, everything's going to get set up, and then once you're happy and everything's working and orders are flowing where they're expected to be flowing, then we're going to turn you over to the support group. And that's sort of what it looks like. And so 2 to 4 weeks, if it's really complicated implementation, it might be more on the 4-week plan, but if it's something simpler, more like on something like 2 weeks.
Yeah, and just to speak to the ShipStation piece. I mean, I think we operate very much the same way. There's a trial period, and during that trial period, you get a dedicated onboarding specialist that can assist with any additional automation rules you might need. And as Todd mentioned, we work very closely with Modern Retail, have great lines of communication, good partnership there. So we would work together to get the project and get it to completion as well. Well, that's all the questions, Todd. Is there anything else you'd like to add before we sign off?
No, just thank you again. Thank you for ShipStation. Jenny and Kevin, you guys have been great. Appreciate the opportunity. Thank you again for everybody listening. I know it's taking time out of your busy day, so thank you for for listening to us for half an hour. I appreciate it.
Yeah, and same here. Thanks everyone who's on. If you have any questions, by all means, please get in touch with Todd or myself. Our information is on the slide there. Would love to hear from you, and certainly would happy to be introduced you to Todd, or if you want to learn more about the solution, get a little bit deeper into your requirements, happy to do that as well. And thank you so much to everyone who attended, and hope you have a great afternoon.